Hello and welcome to this special edition of Sports Talk Live. Myself, Nick Burt, as your host tonight. It is Wednesday, June 28th, and we are live 2 hours early, basically, because the NHL Draft is on, and the Chicago Blackhawks officially just went on the clock, so we are going to eagerly await who they will be drafting, even though we all do believe that it will be Connor Bedard. If it's not, that will be a complete shock to, I believe, everybody in the world. So we will wait for their official pick. And yeah, we'll be here all night, hopefully. Well, not all night. We'll be here for the first 32 picks. And hopefully we get some surprises tonight. It should be an interesting draft, I think. I could be wrong, but you never know. I'm predicting a interesting draft, to say the least. And I'm excited to see what happens after this first pick, of course, because everybody knows that it will be Connor Bedard, as the Blackhawks are stepping up to the podium right now. Pick is in. No surprise it took that quick, and yeah, now we just wait for the official word that it is Connor Bedard. They got, all the people walking up as they always do. They all got to shake hands with the commissioner. And it looks like they're officially stepping forward. And here Kyle Davidson currently talking, doing the normal things, thanking everybody for being there, basically. It's only a matter of moments now until Connor Bedard is officially a NHL player. They are thanking the Golden Knights, or not thanking, but congratulating them on winning the Stanley Cup. They're showing their fans. This is going to be a common scene tonight. And just like that, no real stunner there. Connor Bedard is the first overall pick to the Chicago Blackhawks. A generational talent, as people are saying. The greatest prospect to come out of the draft, basically, since Connor McDavid. The future of Canada, maybe. Canada hockey, I should say. He's not saving Canada, I don't think, from anything. But yeah, this not really a shocking result here. A lot of people expected this. It's been basically ordained that it would be him for a long time now. Back to his years when he was drafted in the WHL to the Regina Pats. It was basically going to be him no matter what. He's such a great player. He put up over 140 points last year in the WHL. He put up 70 goals, 70 assists, or 70 plus goals and 70 plus assists, as they mentioned on the broadcast in the pre-show. And there are only 4 players to do that previously, and all 4 of those players are in the Hall of Fame. So Bedard is on that track to become one of those players. So while we're here also, I do have the Twitter notifications on from all the hockey insiders, so we'll get an idea of what's happening tonight. The latest one I just saw was that Pierre Dorian are saying that the Senators are not close to an Alex DeBrincat trade and are waiting until a deal is close before granting his agent permission to talk to whatever team, as he will be a RFA, I believe, he's an RFA or a UFA. He might be a UFA, so Bedard up there now taking pictures, with the team. Big night for him. like I said, it was kind of preordained that he would be this pick for, forever. And now they're showing his highlights. He led the CHL in goals, assists, and points. No surprise there. Lost in the second round of the WHL playoffs, so didn't make it to the Memorial Cup, though. Obviously, the CHL is the WHL, the OHL, and the QMJHL, which are the three. I don't know. It's like, I'm not sure the official term of it, but it's not the minor leagues. It's junior pro. That is the term I was looking for. It's the Junior Pro Association in Canada. So it should be very interesting to see how his growth happens. He's going to be a great player. I don't think there's any doubting that. He's just, they're saying he's as good as McDavid. He's as good as Crosby. And that's saying a lot. That's putting a lot of pressure on a young kid who knows, he may not perform at that like high level as soon as he gets out. And that's just a risk they're going to have to take. It's going to pay out for them in the end. He's going to be a very good player, but you got to be prepared for those growing pains if you're the Blackhawks, because I don't think there's any guarantees that he's going to be absolutely amazing come day one, basically, with the Blackhawks. It's going to be an interesting time for the Blackhawks. Obviously, they're kind of just going into the rebuild. They're not at that point yet where they would be good enough. And we're looking at players like Mishkov, who's coming from Russia. I know a lot of people are saying he's dropping because he still has that 3-year contract with the KHL. And the thing I thought about that was he's more prepared for a team that's kind of, I won't say exactly like the Blackhawks right now, but he's there for like a Sharks team or probably a Canadiens team where they will be exiting that rebuild in 3 years, and when he comes, it will just be that extra boost. I don't know. It's very slippery slope with him. If he didn't have this KHL problem, he's probably he's not going 1, but he's probably going 2. He's that good. But just with teams worried about this contract with the KHL and him not going to be coming over until potentially 2026, it's a little hesitant for teams that are that high up in the draft, because they're not going to be, they want him now so they can start rebuilding. But, like I said, the Mishkov pick, I feel like he's going to drop. His chances of him getting picked probably start at San Jose at 4. I said on Monday, I think he still drops to 8 with Washington, because Washington might be the only opportunity for him to get to the NHL sooner. But it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Yeah. As they continue to show highlights for Bedard, we are officially moving on to the Ducks, who are at number 2. The believed pick up until basically today is that it's going to be Adam Fantilli. And I say basically because the betting odds have changed. He's gone from a huge favorite to just a favorite. I think he went from like minus 800 to minus 200. For Fantilli to be the pick at 2, which is kind of interesting. I'm still expecting the Ducks to take Fantilli at 2. He obviously played at Michigan this year, won the Hobey Baker. As the Ducks are headed to the stage, and it looks like the pick will be coming within the next minute. Like I said, it's kind of looking like it will be Fantilli. That's who it seemed to be for, it was Bedard, Mishkov, Fantilli, but then the Mishkov things with the KHL, it turned into then it's Bedard and Fantilli. And we are officially waiting now for the pick here. And it's going to be interesting what the Ducks do here. As we await the announcement, Pat Verbeek, the general manager, is making the announcement. And it is not Adam Fantilli from Michigan. It is Leo Carlsson from Sweden. I'm stunned, honestly. I did not expect this to happen this quick for me to be stunned. This is an interesting pick. I don't know a ton about Carlsson. I'll be completely honest. I don't watch that much SHL hockey. He played for Obero, I believe it's pronounced. I could be wrong. It's one of those Swedish pronunciations, but it always seemed like it was always Bedard as the number one center. And then it seemed like Fantilli was 2 and Carlsson was 3, and each were kind of on their own level. And then just up until these past few days, then it became close between Carlsson and Fantilli. And it turns out that the Ducks like Carlsson better than Fantilli, I guess. Now I completely expect Columbus to take Fantilli at 3. I would be very shocked if they don't. They're saying his NHL comparison is Pierre-Luc Dubois, who obviously just got traded to the LA Kings from the Winnipeg Jets, just signed an 8-year extension, which that's probably something I will get into later in this show about 8 years extensions is a lot of time, and it's there, I believe, are arguments to be made that 8-year extension should basically be banned in the NHL, and it should only be probably like a 5-year max. I'm sure we'll get into this later in the show. They're showing his stats from this year. He played in 44 games, 10 goals, 15 assists. That's not a outstanding number. It's obviously not Bedard levels, but now they're showing his highlights. And Sweden's a different place to play. They play on bigger ice. You're playing against decent competition. So this probably does end up working out well for the Ducks. It's not what I expected. I figured they'd go with the safer pick. He had 3 goals and 2 assists in 8 games for Sweden at the World Championships just a few weeks ago. And I believe it said he had 3 goals and 3 assists in the Junior Championships, which were in January. So I'm shocked by this pick. If I'd had to grade it for them, I'd probably say it's a B, because I just expected it to be Fantilli. But this pick probably ends up working out well for the Ducks. I think he'll end up being a good player. And now officially the Columbus Blue Jackets are on the clock. Just checking to see if we have any, news about any potential trades or trades up, trades down. This is always a very much maneuvering time for teams right now. I think 3 and 4 are locked in to be Columbus and San Jose. I think trading wise, it starts opening up at 5 with Montreal. I feel like they would be willing to move out of that 5 pick if who they want isn't there. Who they want, not really sure there, but it really could be anything. So it looks like the another news-ish coming out is the Rangers' phone number for their draft table leaked out on the internet, and apparently things aren't going well there right now. So that's not great for the Rangers, but it's probably funny. And the consensus right now, he's a great player, but people are very surprised that it was not Adam Fantilli. So it seems like that's pretty much a consensus right now. And basically just after they go on the clock, the Columbus Blue Jackets have their pick in. That leads me to believe that it's going to be Adam Fantilli. They probably didn't expect him to fall to 3. And that's going to be the pick. Most likely. We'll officially see. I said that about 2, and then I was wrong. So, could be completely wrong here. As they're officially stepping up to the podium right now, John Davidson, the president of hockey operations, will be announcing the pick for the Blue Jackets. As we await the official announcement, as I said, I am led to believe that it will be Adam Fantilli here. As we are now awaiting it, is now they're passing it off to Jarmo Kekalainen, who is the general manager of the team. And it is official. The pick is Adam Fantilli. No real surprise there. When he dropped to 2, or dropped from 2, I'm not surprised by this at all. He's a great player. He had a good season at Michigan this year, obviously. Won the Hobey Baker, which is, most valuable player of college hockey for the year. Believe he was only the 3rd or 4th freshman to win it, so obviously that's pretty big. And not a huge fall for him. He goes from 2 to 3. Could have been a bigger slide. Some players have bigger slides than that. He only goes a position. So as he heads up to the stage now, he will trade in the maize and blue of Michigan to the red, white, and blue of Columbus. Like I said, I think it will end up being a good pick. He had a very good season this year, and I don't know if it's officially confirmed that I don't think he's going back for another year, which is why he's in the draft. So, it's a great pick for him. So, I don't know if he probably will be a starting game 1 of the season for the Blue Jackets, just given that the Blue Jackets are that in need, I should say, of help. And they could really use a talent like Fantilli. He's a great center, 6'2", 195. That's right about as good of a position as you want it. So his official stats, 36 games last year, he had 30 goals, 35 assists. That's a good stat line, especially given that Michigan team last year was very good. They did have some down points, but they ended up making the Frozen Four. Actually, no, I don't think they made the Frozen. They might have made the Frozen Four. They might have not. I don't remember because I don't like Michigan. I'm pretty sure that is well known, but it's a good pick for him. I'm still surprised that he fell from 2. He played in the World Juniors last year, had a good tournament, which it helped his stats, but it really wasn't changing much because it was always going to be Bedard at 1, and it was basically the fight for 2. He led the NCAA in scoring last year, so Columbus hoping that production from the college ranks helps him up to those pro ranks. As you know, they're going through his highlights again. They're, I believe, about to interview him. The only other 2 players with 65 plus points as a freshman in the last 30 years in college hockey. Paul Kariya had 192-93. Jack Eichel had 71 in 2014-15, and Fantilli had 65 this year. Those other 2 players turned out to be pretty decent, so I'd probably put a good bet on him being quite good in the NHL. If he's not, I think that's more of a surprise than him dropping from 2 to 3. So officially, we have moved on to pick 4 in the draft. The Sharks are on the clock. We're going to wait their pick. Like I said, this pick right now is right when it starts to open up for this Mishkov situation. It does seem like a pick that might fit the Sharks, given that their rebuild still has 2 to 3 years probably before they're actually competing. So I don't think that's the way they go there. I think they go... I think we continue the run on centers. I don't know if they'll take Mishkov, even though he's the best possible player there. It's an interesting development, and that's why these drafts are interesting to watch. I wouldn't be surprised if the Sharks go Will Smith here. I believe that's who I projected last show on Monday. There's a lot of things that could happen here with this pick. I'm not really sure which way they will go, but the pick is in. We will officially wait for the announcement. They're currently on ESPN interviewing Adam Fantilli, so we probably have a few minutes before the pick is actually announced. This draft, compared to, the NFL draft or the NBA draft, I believe you only have 5 minutes when you're on the clock. So it does flow by a little bit quicker than the other drafts. So that's helpful to me, as I didn't want to be here for 5 hours tonight, and hopefully it's only, 2.5 or 3. Then didn't mention, but we got a nice background tonight of some of the jerseys from my collection. We got the Panthers, the Jets, number 1 pick, the Blackhawks, the Canucks, and a Maple Leafs reverse retro. So the Sharks are officially making their pick right now. Mike Greer, their general manager, is the one at the podium that looks to be announcing the pick as we await who their selection will be. As he's thanking, obviously, the people in Nashville, congratulating the Golden Knights, Stanley Cup, doing all the things that they usually do. He's going to pass it off, and the pick will officially be made by Patrick Marleau. And it is official. Will Smith is the pick for the San Jose Sharks at 4. And no, not the Will Smith from the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, but William Smith, the center from the USA under-18 team. He's always he's gotten his stock up this year. He had a good performance throughout the season. The U18 team usually travels around and faces college hockey teams. I know they go to East Lansing every year. I believe they go to Michigan. So as I just add this in really quick. So Will Smith is the pick. I have a friend that is a Sharks fan currently texting me right now. He is happy with the pick, which is good news. It's a great pick, I think. I mean, he averaged 2.12 points a game when he was with the National Development Program. He's going to play at Boston College this year, so he's not going to be a Sharks player until potentially probably late March, early April. So the Sharks somewhat investing in the future, not really investing in a player that's going to be good game one because he won't be there game one. He played 52 games this year, 42 goals, 62 assists. So he really stacked up those assist numbers. That's a pretty good number. He won the U18 World Championship gold medal with the United States team. And he's a very good player. He plays, I believe they play in Plymouth, the U18 team. So I'm just, yeah. It's a good pick for him. They keep showing his stats. He had 9 goals at that U18 World Championship. They compared him to Sebastian Aho, which I think is a good comparison there. I mean, he's got, you can tell when he's playing with that U18 team, he's got that playmaking type mentality. Obviously, that can be told by those 62 assists that he had this year. So it's a pretty good number as we are now moving on. The Montreal Canadiens are on the clock. So we'll see. Do they stay in this position? Do they move out? It looks more and more that they will be staying in the position because I feel like a trade would have been done by now. And I'm not sure who this pick is going to be here, honestly. I don't think they go Mishkov because they have a player like Mishkov and Cole Caulfield already on the team. Is it a Zach Benson from the Winnipeg Ice of the WHL? I don't know. Maybe like a Dalbor Dvovsky from Sweden. This is a really hard pick to gauge. We don't really know what the Canadiens will do here. As Elliot Friedman said 4 minutes ago, it was about above a 50% chance that they would keep the pick, and he said that he heard that about an hour ago. And given that they have a minute left on the clock, I believe that this is going to be the pick for them. As they keep showing stats about Will Smith, he was the only player on the U.S. National Development Team under 17 team to average more than 1 point per game in 2021. So this guy, he's going to be very good. So we now are waiting on what the Canadiens will do here. They're just getting up from their table. So the pick is in. It will be the Canadiens making this pick most likely. As we await them stepping up to the stage. GM Kent Hughes will be interesting to see what he does here. As they're all shaking the commissioner's hand while walking up the stage. As Kent Hughes officially steps up to the podium. So we await to see who their pick is here. As they're continuing their talking here, as they're going to pass it off of who is going to make the pick here to Carey Price. Currently a Canadiens goaltender, but obviously things can change sooner rather than later. Not really sure if he will be there that much longer or if he will be playing hockey for that much longer. Obviously dealt with injuries the past few years. He hasn't been the same since that final that he carried them to the Stanley Cup final. And the pick is in, and it is David Reinenbacher, who's a defenseman from Sweden. Or he's from Austria, but he played in Switzerland. His name was mentioned a few times coming into this week. I didn't really think he would go this high. He seemed like more of a top 10 pick instead of a top 5 pick, if you get what I'm trying to say. But he's the first defenseman off the board. It always kind of seemed that it would go that way, that it would be him as the first defenseman off the board. I'm just kind of surprised that it was to the Canadiens with him at number 5. It's one of those picks where you're not really sure. For me, at least, I don't watch a lot of Swiss hockey, so don't know a ton about him. But if you're taking him at 5, you've got to have a good belief in him that he's going to be what you want in a defenseman. He's from Hohenheim, Austria. There's going to be a lot of butchering of names and places tonight, given that the NHL is truly a European draft. He in 46 games this year, obviously these don't really matter given that he's a defenseman, but he had 3 goals and 19 assists. I think the 19 assists matters more than the 3 goals. I mean, that's a pretty good number for a defenseman. He represented Austria at the 2022 and 2023 World Junior Championships. Like I said, it's an interesting pick. I don't really know a ton about him, given that, like I said, he played in Switzerland, and I'm not really watching a ton of Swiss hockey. I don't even know where you would find Swiss hockey on the TV, to be honest. But they're also saying that he had the most points by a teenager in the Swiss Professional League. So, I mean, that's also given that he is a top 5 pick. So makes sense there. As we're getting ready for pick 6, they just went to commercial break on ESPN. So we're now just waiting until the commercial break is over. The Coyotes officially on the clock. They have right about 2 minutes and 50 seconds remaining. Bill Armstrong had some comments this week about Mishkov, saying that he's been like a ghost in Nashville this week and hasn't really been talking to anybody. So that leads me to believe Mishkov will not be the pick here. As we get closer and closer to him falling to the Washington Capitals, which I believe we'll see the Capitals as soon as they're on the clock walk up to the stage and draft him, but I could also be wrong there. So we're going to wait for this commercial break to be over. Going to replug in the computer here for a second. I'm seeing a comment here. Just saw the comment. Stephen Land asking, how many jerseys do I own? And that's a pretty awesome collection. Thank you for that. Hockey jerseys, I'm probably about 20, I think. Could be wrong there, 15, 20. A lot of them are Penguins jerseys, as I am a Penguins fan. So, but I keep it spread out. If I see a jersey I like, I decide to keep them. But overall, my collection is including, soccer, baseball, basketball, football. We're over 100, which is kind of weird to say, but it's true. We are over 100, so probably if I'd have to pick a favorite one I have, it's either this one that I'm wearing right now, the Pittsburgh Diagonal Crosby jersey, or the Penguins Reverse Retro 2.0 with the Robo Penguin on it. So yeah. Those are probably my two favorite hockey jerseys that I have as of this moment right now. You never know what could come in the future, basically. So as it looks like the Arizona Coyotes pick is in, we're going to wait for them to come up to the stage here. Everybody's wearing a maroon suit, which it's cool, but also kind of weird, given that the Coyotes kind of just changed back to the Cucino logo. I more assume that the maroon goes with the old Howling Coyote logo that they had. With this, I think more black. But obviously the maroon is still technically their main color. So they obviously have that third jersey that they just introduced this year that is maroon. So it's always interesting to see what the teams, decide to hand out here. Sometimes we get new jersey debuts at the draft. They're usually announced before the draft, and it doesn't look like we have any today. There was some talk that maybe the Ducks would have a 30th anniversary jersey to announce, but it doesn't look like that's happening. So look, the Coyotes are officially up and picking right now. It is Xavier Gutierrez, their, I believe, CEO, that is officially making the pick. I don't know if he will be handing that pick off eventually. It would be not surprising if he hands it off, given that half the teams hand it off usually between the first person talking. So he does pass it off. It is to, I believe that is Bill Armstrong, their GM. And the pick is Dmitry Semashev. I believe that's how you pronounced it. He's a defenseman from Russia. Kind of another surprising pick here, I'd say. I didn't really have him in the top 10 probably. I'm currently looking the central scouting rankings from the NHL from April 18th. They did not have him in the top 10 of European skaters, so that might say something about the Coyotes, if we're honest here. And like I said, I'm not going to act like I know a ton about this dude. I'm not watching a ton of Russian hockey in my free time. So this is honestly a very surprising pick from me. I'm going to wait and see what the stats say here that ESPN provides, because I didn't think this guy was going this high. So he's making his walk to the stage. Once again, he played for Loko Yaroslav, I believe. Yaroslav. In the MHL, which I believe is the minor leagues of the KHL. He's from Kostroma, Russia. He's aged 18, so there's a chance that we might see him in the NHL sooner rather than later. Like I said, I'm kind of just waiting to see what these stats say, because I have no idea. In 33 games this year, he had 1 goal and 11 assists. Again, you can't be taking those kind of stats with defensemen, because you got to more focus on the assists, which 11, it's not a terrible number, but it's not a great number either. And obviously the 1 goal is, I don't know. He had 2 goals and 4 assists in 10 playoff games, which was first among defensemen on his team in the MHL. I'm surprised. I got really no words here because I don't really know a ton about this dude. I'm just waiting to see when Mishkov goes, who's going to take a chance. Just trying to find, extra details on this Mishkov contract, because he does have 3 years left in the KHL. And it doesn't look like there is a chance for him to get out of it. Like I said, maybe if it ends up being a team like Washington, where you can go play alongside Alexander Ovechkin, greatest, one of, if not the greatest player in Russian history. As we, we're back in a commercial break here on ESPN. We are on pick 7. The Philadelphia Flyers are on the clock. The question is, do the picks, is this where Mishkov goes? That's a real question here. We're going to just, we're going to slow it down a bit. They really didn't get much in on this Dmitry Shamasev that the Coyotes just drafted, so I can't really say a ton about him, given that they really didn't say much. Like I said, we are at pick 7 here. We are just now we're just waiting. Commercial break. We don't really have any content, so I can't pick up anything that they're interviewing him on. Usually that you get some good nuggets from that, but we got nothing right now. We're finding out about NHL on Roblox, which I have no idea. Yeah. So the Flyers have just above 30 seconds left. Their pick is officially in. They're just back from commercial break, so the pick will be announced within the next few minutes here. I was about to say, it's kind of surprising the lack of trades that are going on right now, but I'm also not surprised about it either, because like I said, I thought the first opportunity for a trade would be at 5 if the Canadiens didn't get their guy, which it turned out was Reinbrenner. And now I kind of felt like 6 and 7 were locked in. So maybe we open up at 8, maybe 9. I don't know if we're going to see a ton of trades tonight, to be honest. So here we go. The pick is in. The selection is about to be made. Somebody's going up to the podium. Oh, God. Is that Ron Hextall? No, it is not. That is Keith Jones, the president of hockey operations. From far away, it looked like Ron Hextall. And that trade coat that was a Flyers legend and then went to Pittsburgh and just absolutely ruined us for 3 years and then got fired, thankfully. It looked like he was back, but it was not him. So the official selection is about to be made. Daniel Briere, the Flyers general manager, is stepping up to the podium to make the announcement. Will it be Mishkov here? It is indeed. Matevei Mishkov from Russia has been drafted by the Philadelphia Flyers at number 7. One pick above where I thought he would go at 8 to the Capitals. And now the Flyers play a waiting game, basically. They're going to most likely have to wait for him for a good at least 3 years. Or I should say at least 2. There might be a chance that he gets out a year early. So we're probably looking at 2025 at the earliest for Mishkov to be in the NHL. So not going to really expect a ton from him coming up, this year or next year. Don't expect to see him on the ice in Philadelphia is all I'm saying. But overall, he fell to 7. If he was, if he didn't have KHL contract problems, he would be the number 2 pick, I should say. He would be playing in the NHL this year. But given that he's got 3 more years in Russia, this is a future pick for the Flyers. In 27 games, he had 9 goals, 11 assists, which isn't a great number, but it doesn't show the whole fabric of work, I'd say. He won the MVP of the 2021 U18 World Championships, which I believe was in America. I could be wrong. I remember he had 12 goals in that tournament, and it was just an absolutely insane number at that point. And that was when the original talk for him was that he's going to be one of these top picks in the draft. It looks like their next stat is that he was the 2021 Hilna Gretzky Gold Cup, or the Hilna Gretzky Cup gold medalist. He was a tournament high 13 points in that tournament. So like I said, that number this year, it's not a huge big deal that it wasn't a huge number, but he was 4th on the team in scoring. He had 20 points in 27 games. But don't be surprised if when he comes in the league, he's going to be a player like Kirill Kaprizov, who with the Wild, it obviously took them a few years to get him to Minnesota, but he was finally there. He had an absolutely breakout year, and I believe that is what's in Mishkov's future. He's a great player on transition offense. He creates a lot of goal-scoring opportunities. He gets a lot of goals. Obviously, he won that MVP of the U18 tournament with those 12 goals, I believe. So they're currently now talking to him. He's using a translator, given that, he basically just over from Russia. And like I said, if he didn't have the KHL problems, he'd be the pick at 2 or 3 if he dropped 1. So it's an exciting time, I would think, to be a Flyers fan, knowing that he will be in your system. Obviously, he's not going to be there as the charger just dropped, so got to pick that up really quick. Got to make sure the phone is charged in case we get any breaking news alerts about trades. He signed in the KHL through 25-26 season. He finished 4th in points on the Scotia team, despite playing 28 fewer games than the 3 players ahead of him. So when he won the MVP at that Under-18 World Championship, he had 12 goals, but he also had 4 assists, so he had 16 total points in 7 games. So that's a pretty good number as they continue to show his highlights here. As we moved on, and the Washington Capitals are officially on the clock at number 8. Like I said, it's also going to be interesting to see what the Capitals do here. This could become an interesting pick for them. Mishkov seemed like it would be a great pick for them if he fell there, but obviously he goes 1 pick fewer. As now they're just doing the photo ops of the top 3 draft picks, as they usually do. We'll probably get some interesting photos to come out of those. But like I was talking about earlier, usually draft night we see, some jersey debuts, and we really haven't got any this year. The Flyers obviously had their first overall pick, or their pick of Mishkov wearing the new Flyers jersey, but that was unveiled like a week ago, so it wasn't, anything breaking. Maybe we see Boston's new jersey tonight. I don't think we will, though. I feel like that would have been announced by now. I know that there will be a new home and away jersey for Boston this year since it is their 100th anniversary. And like I said, I don't expect to see it tonight. I feel like that would have been announced by now if it was being unveiled. Again, not really expecting it. As they're stepping up to the stage here with the Capitals. They get the final people on the stage, and we will see what the pick is here. So we are awaiting the official announcement. Ryan McLellan, believe he is high up in the Capitals organization. And the pick is Ryan Leonard, right winger from the USA Under-18 National Development Team. So the same as William Smith. He's a really good winger. I can say that. Probably aren't going to see him until next year. Most likely you might see him at the end of this year. But more than likely you are seeing him next year, as in 24-25, not 23-24. And I think this ends up being a good pick for Washington. You're entering those final years of Alex Ovechkin. And you're headed for that rebuild. Obviously, this year wasn't what you wanted it to be. Obviously, you want to take those last few years that you have of your star player and, end up in the playoffs with the chance to win the cup. And it just didn't work out for them this year. So the question, I think, leading up into this season is it the start of a long rebuild? Or is it a refresh this year? Just try to get the team back to playoff while you still have Ovechkin for the last few years. But I think this is going to be a good pick for Washington. Right winger is... he probably can play on the left too. It's a pick that they needed for the future. On 49 games this year, he had 42 goals and 34 assists. That's pretty good numbers. Obviously, not as good as his teammate Will Smith, but that's a pretty decent number. And obviously, the Capitals are hoping that number is close to what he does in Washington. He won the U18 World Championship gold medal with the U.S. team this year. think he's committed to college. I don't remember which one. I could be completely wrong there. I'm sure they'll bring it up on the broadcast. But given that he is on the U18 team, it is led to be my belief that he will be headed to college next year. He had 8 goals and 9 assists in the U18 World Championship. That's a pretty good performance in a tournament like that when you're only playing 7 games, 6-7 games. And maybe he is not committed to college because they have not mentioned that at all. With Will Smith, they mentioned that he's off to Boston College, and now they're not mentioning it with Ryan Leonard, so it might be possible that he's not. It could be completely wrong there. As it does look like he is also headed to Boston College next year. So the Elite Prospects does say that he is indeed headed to Boston College. So he will once again be teamed up with Will Smith, and they will they'll be teammates for at least one more year before they both head on to the NHL and, maybe tear up the league. You never know what could happen, basically, with draft picks. As we have now moved on to number 9, the Detroit Red Wings are on the clock. And the thing with them, you never know what they're going to do because Steve Yzerman is going to find some random Swedish player or Finnish player or Nordic player, and he's going to draft him at 9. The Red Wings fans are going to act like that's just an absolutely outstanding pick, even though they've never heard of the dude in his life. So it's going to be interesting to see what this pick here is for the Red Wings. Looks like they are getting up from the table with just under a minute, or just over a minute left, I should say. As they're showing the last 5 first-round draft picks for the Red Wings, which are Marco Kasper, Simon Edvinsson, Sebastian Kosa, Lucas Raymond, and Moritz Seider. They're also showing their games play. Raymond and Seider. Seider picked in 19, Raymond in 20. Both obviously have played over 150 games. The other 3 have played a total of 10. So the Red Wings are in an odd spot because they need to start showing something. I believe they need to start showing something that they're exiting this rebuild, because I haven't seen anything yet that they are. But it's also kind of on their owner, Chris Ilitch, because he doesn't like to spend money. I don't know what they do here. It will be an interesting pick as we await the announcement. Steve Yzerman, one of the last players up on stage, shaking hands with Gary Bettman, sharing a few words. As we officially wait the announcement here, Steve Yzerman heads up to the podium. And the pick is, as they officially announced it, it is Nate Danielson, the center from the Brandon Wheat Kings of the WHL. And this, I think, might be a very good pick for the Red Wings. As much as it pains for me to say that, I believe this is going to be a very good pick. I've read a few things this week. They've said that coming into this draft, the worst thing about Nate Danielson is that he's boring, which there's nothing wrong with being boring. Which I think it's just a very good way of saying he doesn't really have any problem areas. I think he's going to be a very good player for the Red Wings. We probably don't see him this year, would be my guess. I'm not going to say like it's a steal of the draft because, I mean, this is the area he was projected to go. Probably a little bit higher than he was projected to go, but the Wings most likely aren't trading up, even though they do have a pick later in this draft. They do have pick 17. But I think Danielson is a very good pick. You need a player like Dylan Larkin to help with that Red Wings team, and I think Danielson could be that. I personally like the pick for the Red Wings. In 68 games this year in the WHL, he had 33 goals, 45 assists, which are pretty decent numbers, especially when you're in a league with a player like Connor Bedard. As they are now showing his highlights. He led the Brandon Wheat Kings in goals, assists, and points this year, so no real surprise there. Like I said, I think he's going to end up being a really good player for the Red Wings if he can be a Dylan Larkin type player that's going to be huge for them. I mean, he probably does spend a year in Grand Rapids. I don't see him going to Detroit immediately from Brandon. I feel like he will most likely spend a year in Grand Rapids before he gets promoted to the NHL, which wouldn't surprise me at all, just because that seems to be the way Detroit likes to do their picks lately. They usually do like to, have them develop. They don't want them, just sped up into the league. So it's going to be interesting to see how this ends up developing for the Red Wings. Like I said, I think he's a very good player, Nate Danielson. I think this was a good pick by Steve Yzerman. That might be the first time I'm actually saying that about a Steve Yzerman pick that since he's been hired by the Red Wings. $78 total points this year. As I mentioned, that ranks first with the Wheat Kings this year. That was the most points put up by a Wheat Kings player since the 2018-19 season, I believe it was said. I believe that was Nolan Patrick, whose career has just fallen apart, which is quite sad to see. But, we keep moving on here. We are officially just under a minute left on the clock for the St. Louis Blues at 10. And it's going to be interesting to see where they go here too, because they're also in a weird spot where they're in somewhat of a rebuild, but they're also somewhat not. There could be a lot of ways to go with this pick here. I don't know if you want to go for somebody that's going to be good now or if you are waiting for a few years. As they are officially getting ready to step up on the stage here. As we have officially crossed over the first hour of this show. yeah, the longest show we've done so far, we are only a third of the way through it, basically. And this could be an interesting pick for the Blues here, because there's a lot of ways that you can go with this pick. I think there's still some good talent. As they go very quick, and the pick is Dalibor Dubrovsky from Sweden. He's a center. He was the best player on the board right now, and I think that's a very good pick for the Blues. The NHL Central Scouting Report didn't have him in the top 10 of European skater. Or yes, they did. They had him at 3. He played in Sweden. He is from, I believe it is Slovakia. Like I said, I think this is a very good pick for them. You'll probably see him this year, would be my guess. But yeah, this is a very good pick. Playing in the Swedish league, like I said, you get a lot of good talent in that league. So you're playing against very good-ish players. And, I mean, Slovakia is having a golden age of hockey players right now, I'd say. I mean, it seems like every year they get better and better. Usually there's at least 1 or 2 players that come out of the draft each year from Slovakia that turn out to be very good players. So this is going to be a good pick for the Blues. They really do need some help at the center position, especially for the future. So yeah, I think that's a good pick for them. And it's like, it's hard to project what these players are going to do when it's probably not going to be until year 2 or 3 that you actually see how good they are, I should say. 38 games this year, he had 6 goals and 8 assists. He led Slovakia in scoring at the U18 World Championships this year. So, I mean, it's a pretty good stat given that, like I said, there's a lot of talent coming out of Slovakia these days. So putting up that kind of performance usually does indicate good things. As they are now showing his highlights from that U18 World Championship. They lost to Russia in that Hilna Gretzky Cup this year. But he did lead Slovakia in points with 12 points. So it's going to be quite interesting to see how this plays out. Like, as they're just showing right now, top 10 picks from Slovakia. From 1992 to 2021, there were 4 picks total. From 2022 to 23, there are 3, including, I believe, the first 2 picks last year were both Slovak. So like I said, we are entering a golden age of Slovakian hockey. If, in 26 we do end up getting the best players going to the Olympics, aka the NHL players being able to play at the Olympics, Slovakia is going to have a good team if they qualify. I think they really will. They're not going to win gold. They're not going to win silver, especially if the NHL players are there. But they definitely could very well win a bronze. That's very much in the cards for them. So we've hit pick 11. The Vancouver Canucks are on the clock. So team right behind me right here. They have just about 90 seconds left on the clock before they will be picking. And this is another pick that's going to be quite interesting to see where they go. They have a lot of young talent where they shouldn't be rebuilding, but they just consistently aren't great. Therefore, you got to believe that they might go with somebody that can help them win now here, instead of getting somebody that's a future type pick. They're just highlighting the first top 10 picks of the draft so far, as the Canucks have just under 50 seconds now on the clock. 6 of the top 10 players drafted so far are centers. Most centers in the top 10 since 2017, which was at 7. We have 6 countries represented in the top 10, 3 from Canada, 2 from the USA, 2 from Russia, and then 1 from Sweden, 1 from Slovakia, and 1 from Austria. And there were no trades in the first 10 picks, which seems like a rarity these days, if we're honest, as the Canucks are officially headed to the podium, and we will see what the pick is here. Jim Rutherford, the president of hockey operations, Patrick Alvin, the GM. It's going to be interesting to see what they do here. So we're just waiting for everybody to step up on the stage. Patrick Alvin is going to make the pick here. As they pick Tom Willander. He played for Rögle Jr. in Sweden. He's a defenseman, and this is another pick that's kind of left me stunned-ish, kind of like the Coyotes pick. I didn't expect him to go this high. He's a good defenseman, though. I know that. So defense is something the Canucks need help with. I mean, personally, defensive-wise, he's not even the best Swedish defenseman in this draft. I think Axel Sandin Pakita, that is another name that was just completely butchered. I think he is the better Swede in this draft, draft pick-wise. But obviously the Canucks see something in Willander. Maybe this is a player that helps them sooner rather than later. That is also a very real possibility. From Stockholm, Sweden, 6'1", 180. Like I said, this seems like a player that could possibly be there as soon as, probably this year. 39 games this year, 4 goals, 21 assists. That assist number is very good for a defensive player. Once again, he's playing in that Swedish league system, so you're going to be playing against good players. He's committed to Boston University for 23-24, so you actually won't be seeing him until potentially late March, early April next year. Usually you don't see a ton of Swedish players come over to America. They usually play in their league for, up until their draft, and then they head over to America to the AHL or for wherever they were drafted. But he will be playing at Boston University this year. He will be a Terrier. But he had 3 goals, 5 assists at the 2023 U18 World Championship for the Swedish team. So this is another very, I'd say it's a decent pick for the Canucks, given their record of drafting not being outstanding. I think it will end up being an okay pick for them. So ESPN is back in a commercial break. The Arizona Coyotes are once again on the clock. They acquired this pick earlier this year from the Ottawa Senators, as they just have under 2 minutes and 35 seconds on the clock. As we are just, waiting here for them to come back from commercial break and the Coyotes to make this pick. Just a reminder, normal show will be back on Friday. We're here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, giving you all the talkings of the sports world at this point. Once the summer months die down, the content will drive up with more sports options out there. So, we're just taking this moment, enjoying this NHL draft together, and hopefully you're enjoying it here on this YouTube channel here. The Coyotes have just under 90 seconds now with their pick. We're still in commercial break. We should be back within 30 seconds. They usually come back with a minute left, it seems. As we still have not had any trades yet happen this draft day, I should say, during the draft time. Obviously, Riley Smith was traded earlier today from the Vegas Golden Knights to the Pittsburgh Penguins for a 2024 third-round pick. I think that will end up being a good trade for the Penguins. They kind of needed help with that position. I think he's only got a year left on his contract, so that is only a $5 million cap hit this year. So this trade that the Coyotes got this pick, it was the Jacob Chichurin trade where he went to Ottawa in exchange for this pick, a 2024 second-round pick, which is a conditional pick, and a 2026 second-round pick, which does not have any conditions on it. As the Coyotes are once again getting ready to make the pick here in their all-maroon suits. As we just check if anything else is going on right now, it does not look like we have any breaking news. As the Coyotes' selection is Daniel But. That, again, could be completely butchered. He's a left winger from Yaroslav Jr. in Russia. I don't believe Yaroslav Jr. is a KHL team, so you're not going to have to deal with a KHL contract there. I believe they're actually an MHL team. He was ranked number 9, the number 9 European skater on that NHL Central Scouting rankings from late April. This is Lokomotiv Yaroslav, so it's not Yaroslav Jr. So that is a KHL team. And, of course, they are most famous for that horrific plane crash in 2011 where they basically lost most of their team. Just absolutely horrific events there. They've obviously gotten back now, which is great to see. As now he's walking down the steps of the Bridgestone Arena. It looks like they were sitting him right near the top of the lower bowl. So he's got a long walk down to the stage. As we get his highlight package from Lokomotiv Yaroslav. As he is a left winger, so every position is a position in need for the Coyotes, if we're honest, just given that they're the Coyotes and he sucks, or they suck. He does not suck. He's 6'5", which quite tall for a left winger, 203. It's almost like he's towering over all of these people on the stage in these maroon suits for Arizona. I mean, 6'5", pretty tall for a winger. And, hopefully this pick ends up working out well for the Coyotes. Obviously, the Coyotes' future is in big doubt as of this moment, given that, they don't have an arena right now. They are playing in a college arena with a college team as, their roommate, basically. So, interesting future there for Arizona. 32 games this year. He had 18 goals and 14 assists, which is pretty decent number, I'd say. Pretty sure that they did say he represented, he was at that Hilna Gretzky Cup, as they once again are showing his highlights once again. Indeed, he was at that Hilna Gretzky gold medalist. That was 2021. And obviously, a lot of these Russian players are not getting that playing time on the national stages, given everything that's happening geopolitically and them being banned from basically all sporting events. So he has not had that opportunity to play on that kind of stage. Obviously, the Hilna Gretzky Cup was probably the last one. And now, just with over 2 minutes and 30 seconds left, the Buffalo Sabres are on the clock, a team that is getting very close to exiting a rebuild, I believe. I think they're one or two key pieces away. They had Levi, the goaltender, come in from Northeastern at the end of this year, put on a pretty good performance, so it's looking like he will be the future goaltender. They're in Buffalo. I think they're building a really good young core there with the Sabres. Owen Power, you had him drafted first overall. I believe that was 2 years ago now. Rasmus Dahlin, that was 4 years ago, I think now. I could be wrong on that. But they're showing those last 5 draft picks and the first round draft picks. So Matthew Savory, Nola Olsson, Yuri Kudlich, Owen Power, and Isak Rolson. The first 3 were in 2022, the last 2 in 2021. And Owen Power is the only one that has played games in the NHL out of those 5 picks. So once again, I think that shows that they're a team that's getting close to exiting that rebuild. They need a few more key pieces. And it's going to be interesting to see where they go with this pick. Just under a minute left now with their pick, as they're still sitting at the table. So we are going to wait for their draft pick here. They're now officially getting up, so that means they're headed to the stage, and we should be getting a pick announcement within the next minute. And after that, the Pittsburgh Penguins are on the clock. So Kyle Dubas's first draft as Penguins president, technically. He's the interim GM right now. So it's going to be interesting to see where Buffalo goes here. As we await the announcement here. As the Sabres officially step up to the microphone. And the pick is Zach Benson, the winger from the Winnipeg Ice in the Western Hockey League. He was kind of on the board for a little while. He is at number 6 in that NHL Central Scouting rankings from late April. This is a very good pick from the Buffalo Sabres. Like I said, they're a few pieces away, and I feel like Benson is one of those pieces. I believe this is going to be a very good pick for them. once again, it's always hard to compare players in a league when you're with Connor Bedard, so you can't look at numbers like, oh, how many goals, assists, and points, because it's always going to be at least second, because Bedard just had an absolutely outstanding season. But this is a very good pick here for the Buffalo Sabres. Zach Benson is a very good player from the few games I saw from him this year. From Chilliwack, British Columbia, 5'10", so a little bit on the shorter side. But, you know, that hasn't hurt some other players in the past. So as he's on the stage now, shaking hands with all the Buffalo Sabres delegation that is there. In his 60 games this year, 36 goals, 62 assists. That's just, like I said, outstanding numbers. He's a really good player, and I think this pick works out really well for Buffalo. I think a few of the teams above Buffalo are going to regret this pick in a few years, passing up on him. I think he's that good of a player. So he finished third in the WHL in scoring. He had 98 points this year. In the WHL playoffs, they played 15 games. He had 7 goals and 10 assists. And yeah, I really love this pick for the Buffalo Sabres. That's a huge asset for their future. And I would not be surprised if they're competing for playoffs. I won't say next year, but probably within 2 years they're competing in the playoffs. You know, the East is still a gauntlet, so somebody's got to fall off before they can get that spot. I mean, look at Florida this year. They made the Stanley Cup and just made the playoffs because Pittsburgh lost 2 games that they shouldn't have, but that's neither here nor there. So officially, Pittsburgh is on the clock at 14 with 2 minutes and 30 seconds left on the clock. And speaking as a Penguins fan here, I want Matthew Wood, the UConn player, the center, and of course it's not me being biased. I know I have my UConn cup here and a Penguins jersey on. I think he's a really good center. It's a position we need. I've mentioned that the depth between the top 2 lines and the bottom 2 lines, it's like 2 completely different teams. Now, he obviously doesn't step in game 1. I think he's going back to UConn next year. I really would like him here. I don't know if that's where Dubas goes with this pick. This honestly could be anybody, to be honest. But I'm really excited to see what the Penguins do here. I mean, Dubas with the Maple Leafs didn't have a great track record with draft picks, but when they hit, they hit. I mean, look at Matthew Nyes. He's looking like he will be an absolutely outstanding winger for them in the future. And we are just under 90 seconds now, so we are going to wait to see who the pick is here. They are in a commercial break, so we probably got a, few minutes or a few seconds here, I should say. And we do have an official jersey announcement. I will get the pictures in here as soon as I can. We do have a jersey coming out. And I am looking at it right now, and it is something. The Anaheim Ducks have released a 30th anniversary jersey. And it somewhat looks like what they have worn previously, but it is also a completely new design. As soon as I can get this up, I will put it in here. It's a one-man show here, so graphics take a few minutes. It does look like the Penguins are going to make their pick first, so we will stop for a second as Kyle Dubas is making the official announcement. as I said, very excited to see who the pick is here for the Penguins' future. I'm excited to see what Dubas does with this team. I think he did very good for Toronto. And the pick is Braden Yeager. He was a center for the Moose Jaw Warriors in the WHL. They get that center position, but they didn't go Matthew Wood. I'm not completely disappointed with it. I think Yeager is a good player. He played on that team with Bedard in the World Juniors. I think he had 78 points this year in the WHL with Moose Jaw. I like the pick. I know there's probably going to be people in Pittsburgh that don't love it, but I don't think a ton of people in Pittsburgh watch a lot of Moose Jaw hockey. Kids from Saskatoon, they can't be, a negative there. Saskatoon, a great place. Saskatchewan, great place. So, love that they're picking somebody from Saskatchewan. Like I said, I like the pick. Would I have preferred it to be the guy from UConn just because I have a UConn cup and root for UConn in most sports? Yes, but 67 games this year, 28 goals, 50 assists. Second on Moose Jaw in assists and points. I like the pick. Like I said, I think this ends up being... This is the beginning of the rebuild, and I think he's going to be a very good pick for them. So, as I mentioned, we do have a jersey reveal as I get it loaded up here. It is, slow process, but we're getting there. Here we go. And of course, this is thanks to sportslogos.net. Great website. Please check them out. If you're ever looking for, uniform updates or just logo history, they are a great place. So this is the new Ducks sweater. This is quite something. So it is the Ducks' 30th anniversary this year. So they are celebrating this 30th anniversary by going back to the eggplant in teal, which I'm okay with, but this is not what I was expecting, to say the least. I did not expect this duck logo, which seems to be like a remake of the shoulder patch from those original jerseys. I don't know about this at all. I don't love it. I won't say I hate it because it's not terrible. But it could have been done much better, I believe. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know, to say the least. That is a quite interesting jersey choice. Also, kind of surprised the Ducks didn't announce that on stage. Usually, you bring up the jersey for your draft pick. I figured they might have done that, but they did not. So, yeah, that is something. So now the Nashville Predators are on the clock, the hometown team for this draft. They have just over a minute and 50 seconds on the clock. As the ESPN panel is interviewing Connor Bedard right now. I don't know about this Ducks jersey at all. I'm quite disappointed in it. It's a 30th anniversary. I feel like you should be doing a throwback to something and not creating something out of the new. But I don't run teams, and if I did, I would do things differently. So, we now are waiting for Nashville to make the pick here. They have 60 seconds left on the clock. Like I said, the hometown team for this draft. And see, that's why you need to keep the phone always on standby and on the charger so you can see these when they break. As the Predators are officially stepping up to the podium. Obviously, the outgoing GM, been there since the team's been created in, 96. Barry Trotz taking over for him. As we await the official announcement from the Predators here, as we are almost to halfway in this draft. So we're running a little bit slow. Computer charger not helping also. That's never a good thing. And the pick is in, and it is the pick I wanted for the pick before. It is Matthew Wood from UConn, and I said he was a center. I meant he was a right winger. So he's a winger. He can probably play on both wings. I like the kid. I think he's a really good player. UConn hockey, just they keep getting better and better each year. He was a big part of that. And I think he will do well in Nashville. Nashville, another team where they're in a weird spot where they're not competing, but they're also trying to not rebuild. But I really like the pick here. I like the kid. I think he's going to be a really good talent in the NHL. And I'm excited to see what he can do with the Nashville Predators. From Lethbridge, Alberta. So he's another good Canadian. Canada always producing talent, of course. Sorry, I hit the microphone there. Always continually producing good talent. For UConn this year, he had, in 35 games, 11 goals, 23 assists. Once again, I don't think that tells the full story. The dude was always out there making plays for him. And he's a really good player. He led UConn in scoring with 34 points. I believe this is the highest UConn pick ever. The team's been D1 for more than 2 decades now. I believe they moved up in 98 or 99. So right around when the Predators became an NHL team. And yeah, like I said, I love this pick. I really do. I think he's a really good player. And I'm excited to see what he can do. He scored 7 goals for Canada at the 2023 U18 World Championships. And, as they now go through his highlight package from, that championship and also his UConn days, he's a great scorer. He's got a really good shot for a winger. He does play on both sides. And I'm like I said, I'm really excited to see what he does with this Predators team. He probably doesn't play with the Predators this year. He might get some games. He probably won't, though. But it's interesting to see how that plays out. And now the Calgary Flames are on the clock. They have just under 2 minutes and 30 seconds now. It's interesting for the Flames, given that none of their players seem to want to re-sign. They just traded away Tyler Toffoli a few days ago. I believe that was actually yesterday. He was traded to the New Jersey Devils for a 3rd-round pick, I believe, and then another player that I'm completely forgetting his name, but it's a very long Russian name, and he just signed, I believe it was a 5x5 contract, so So it would be 5 years, $25 million. So $5 million annual average value. Let me see if I can find the official details here. Yegor Sharashogovich, and it's actually a 2-year, $3.1 million contract. The 5-year, $5 million contract is what I was thinking that Ivan Barbashev got from the Vegas Golden Knights, which was just announced earlier before the draft. Matthew Wood, there once again going through his stats. He's 17 years old, youngest player in Division I, 34 points, led the UConn team. I'm really happy for the kid, and I hope he does really well in the league. As the pick seems to be in for the Calgary Flames, and we await to see what their pick is. They're now interviewing Barry Trotz, who will be stepping into that GM position very soon. I believe it will be actually on Saturday. He is his official first day on the job. It's the Calgary Flames step to the podium. We're still, still kind of surprised. No trades have really taken place yet. Nobody's really jumping up. I'm kind of surprised by that, but it makes for less chaos on my end trying to, control graphics and stuff. As the Calgary Flames are about to make their pick here. Which is the last pick of the lottery selection. So we are more than halfway through now. So there's a fly on the stage that keeps going by the dude's head. As they officially pass it off now to Craig Conroy, who is the general manager of the Flames. And it looks like the pick is going to be, as we wait in suspense here, it is Samuel Honzek, who is another Slovakian. Like I said, they're entering that golden age. He's a winger from the Vancouver Giants in the WHL. They have him at 9 in the North American Skaters NHL scouting report. I think he's going just about where I expected him to. I wouldn't really say I expected a lot more from that. I think the players picked in front of him are much better. He put up good performance this year in Vancouver, but he needs a few years to develop, I'd say. He's just not fully there yet. He probably going to need at least 2 or 3 years before he's actually, making good plays for the Flames in Calgary. So it's going to be a few days, I'd say, before he is actually playing in the red and white. Like I said, this has been a pretty standard draft so far. As now they're going through his stats: 43 games, 23 goals, 33 assists. I believe that led Vancouver in points this year. Like I said, it's interesting to say the least. It was actually second on Vancouver. I was wrong there. And it's just, like I said, it's going to be a few years before he is a good player for them. We will obviously probably see that. I wouldn't be surprised if he's starting for the Flames probably come next year, but then he's not actually making plays for them until 25, 26 probably, is when he's actually doing quite well in the NHL. So we've hit another commercial break, so just going to take a quick break here, just, drink a little bit more water. But like I said, just kind of recapping this draft so far, not a shocking draft where we don't have any trades, which has kind of shocked me. But we also haven't had any real huge surprises. Arizona, but they're Arizona, so it would be surprising if they weren't surprising, is my saying with it. So we're going to check in on the internet, see if we got anything going on there. So we're getting closer and closer to that 2-hour mark. Looking like we're going to be here for probably another 90-ish minutes, given that we are just now halfway through the draft. Other sports news tonight, not really a ton. The U.S. is playing their second game in the CONCACAF Gold Cup tonight against St. Kitts and Nevis. I believe Jamaica and Trinidad and Tobago are playing right now. They are indeed. Jamaica is up 3-1 in the 66th minute. So Jamaica would go top of the group with that pick. Or with that win, I should say. And the Jim Gregory Award, which is the General Manager of the Year, has just been announced. Dallas's Jim Nill has won the GM of the Year award. Big congratulations to him for winning that. That is a quite good selection for the pick, even though, they didn't have the success that they wanted at the end of the year. Obviously, you always want to make the Stanley Cup and win it, but, sometimes you just... They made it to the Western Conference Finals, which I think is good enough, I'd say, for that team this year. I was hoping to get a few more, jersey announcements. We have not, which is disappointing. We're still in commercial break here. Obviously, they're doing that announcement for GM of the Year. So I don't believe the Red Wings are technically they are on the clock, but they're not right now. They're now talking about how Tennessee State is going to start a club hockey program that is eventually gonna move up to D1. I believe they're the first HBCU team to have hockey. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. They're going to take the paths that the Devils, or not the Sun Devils of Arizona State and Penn State have done, where you do club hockey for like 2 to 3 years and then you're in D1. Hopefully they can find a conference. I feel like that might be one of their biggest struggles, given that Arizona State is without a conference still right now. That may be a challenge for them. And we're back in commercial break now, so I don't know what we're doing, NHL, but we're doing something. As we, stay in control of all the controls here. Just checking back in, see if anything, is breaking as of this moment, and it really doesn't look like it. We're now just waiting for the second half of the draft to start. I don't really know what we're waiting for right now. Kind of annoying, but that's the NHL for you. So we are just the Red Wings are officially on the clock now. They have 3 minutes. So we just spent 5 minutes with them not on the clock, and they are now on the clock. We seem to officially be moving on, I'd say, to the second half of the draft. It's not going to go any quicker, so we are here for the long haul. Just looking at the official voting for the Jim Gregory General Manager of the Year Award, Jim Nill had 12 first-place votes, 9 second-place votes, and 4 third-place votes for a total of 91 points. Don Sweeney of the Boston Bruins had 83 points with 12 first-place votes, 6 second-place votes, and 5 third-place votes. And Bill Zito of Florida finishes with 46 points with 4 first-place votes, 6 second-place votes, and 8 third-place votes. So now we once again wait. The pick is in for Detroit, so maybe we can get them up on stage sooner rather than later. The Red Wings, of course, on the clock once again. They got this pick from the Vancouver Canucks after the Vancouver Canucks got this pick from the New York Islanders in the trade involving Bo Horvat earlier near the trade deadline this year. And now we wait and see what the Red Wings do here. Is this where Yzerman takes his random European player that nobody's ever heard of? We will see. They got Nate Danielson earlier this draft at pick 8, which, like I said, was, I believe, at 9, I should say. Which, what I said, I think it was a very good pick. It's going to be interesting to see what they do here at this pick. Do you go defense here? Do you go winger here? I'm interested to see what they do here. So everybody's stepping back up on the stage. As it looks like Gary Bettman and Steve Yzerman just having a nice conversation right now. And Steve Yzerman steps up once again. And the pick is officially in as we are waiting for the official announcement. And it is Axel Sendin Patika. He is the defenseman from Sweden. As I said earlier, I believe he is the best Swedish defenseman in this draft. And there is your trademark Steve Yzerman European pick. This is... It's a good pick. Like I said, I think these are probably the 2 best picks that Yzerman has made in my eyes in his drafting time with the Red Wings. I like this pick. I was surprised that he kind of fell this far. I figured he would have went earlier. I thought he was better than Willander, his Swedish teammate. So... It's a good pick for them. Detroit loves their Swedish players. Nick Lidstrom, obviously one of the big ones with them. as he now walks up to the stage. Shaking hands with Gary Bettman. Like I said, I thought this was a very good pick for Detroit. I still think he wow. So Patrick Bacon, Top Down Hockey, does, a lot of stats for, stuff like player projections. So they are looking at Dmitry Semashev, who's the defenseman picked at 6 for the Coyotes. His projected chances of becoming a star is at 0%, and his projected chances of becoming an NHLer is at 6%. He had him ranked 176th overall. Wow, that is something. I knew that he wasn't good, but that's not terrible. That's not great at all. So the Winnipeg Jets, we got them up here. They are now on the clock. They have just over 2 minutes left on the clock to make their pick at 18. Overall, I think this ends up being a good 2 picks for the Red Wings. Yeah, we'll see. And you kind of do think about it with the Red Wings. Obviously, they do make this pick, but I mean, you got to also think you drafted Simon Edvinsson. I believe that was last year. It was 2 years ago, I believe. That was 2021 draft. He was drafted, and I just it does make me question it. Obviously, people in Detroit will think, Steve Yzerman knows all the answers because he actually won 0 Stanley Cups. He built 2 Stanley Cup teams. But, yeah. So the Winnipeg Jets have their pick in. They're headed to the podium. And after them, we will see Chicago back on the clock. So we are officially awaiting as they all step up to the podium right now, and they are about to make their pick here. And the pick is in, and it is Colby Barlow, the winger from Owen Sound, which is in the OHL. I think that's actually the first OHL player we've had drafted this draft. The CHL players have all been from the WHL. Still have no QMJHL players drafted yet. But Colby Barlow was, I won't say by far, but he was the best player in the OHL this year with Owen Sound. I think this is going to be once again, it's a pick for the future. He's not going to, be that top player come, next year, but he is going to be a good player come 2 to 3 years from now. And actually, from what I'm remembering, it's actually a pretty decent turnout for draftees this year. I don't think we've had anybody that hasn't been there yet. We're 18 picks into the draft, so I feel like that's something we usually don't see. We usually get a few players that end up, not going to the draft for whatever reason. As Colby Barlow makes the walk across the stage, he's going to shake hands with the commissioner, Gary Bettman, which, of course, questions need to be asked. How much longer is he going to be doing that? Obviously, he's been in the job for 30 years now, so the time is probably coming sooner rather than later that he will be retiring. Colby Barlow was 5th in the OHL this year with 46 goals this year. See, shaking the hands of all the Jets delegates that are up on stage right now. As we are now, Barlow led Owen Sound in scoring with 79 points this season. Like I said, I thought he was probably one of the best players in the OHL this year, draftable players, I should say. I think there's a few other good players that are within the OHL right now, but like I said, I think that's going to be a good pick for them, just not now, basically. So, ESPN's in another commercial break. The Chicago Blackhawks are back on the clock. They received this pick from Tampa Bay. So, they have just under 2 minutes and 45 seconds left until their pick. So, let's check in, just see if there's anything happening trade-wise or anything. Not that I'd expect anything, given that nothing has really happened. So we just continue the wait here. Chicago's got 2 minutes left on the clock before their pick. And the pick is in for Chicago, but we are still in a commercial break here, so we've probably got another 2 minutes before the pick is actually made. Got some interesting teams coming up soon. We obviously have the Blackhawks coming up right now. Then we have the Kraken, who could easily pick I think anybody here, you kind of would assume that they'd go with somebody that's a win now type player, given what they did this year, getting through the first round of the playoffs against the defending Stanley Cup champion Colorado Avalanche. You got the Minnesota Wild coming up. They kind of are in a win now mode. Then you got the Flyers again. Obviously they drafted Mishkov of 7. Do they draft somebody else that might help them down the road? Or sooner, I should say. We'll see about that. Then you got the New York Rangers, who knows what they're going to do. And then you got the Nashville Predators also coming up once again. So as we wait for the Blackhawks to delegation to take the stage here, obviously selected Connor Bedard first overall. So who are they going to pair him with this next pick? So we await the official announcement here. They're just getting all the delegation on stage. Usually takes a few minutes. And the pick is Oliver Moore. He is from that USA U18 development program. He is a center. So kind of interesting that, they're picking, a player in the same position that Bedard is in. But the Blackhawks need a lot. So it's an interesting pick, I think. I don't know if, he's going to be the superstar worthy of, a 19th overall pick. But, who am I to judge? I am sitting here in a chair, in front of a table, in front of a camera, in front of a TV. So I can't really be the judge of a, under 18 player of how good or bad they are going to be. As we just update the graphic here, just really quick. From Mounds View, Minnesota. This year in 53 games, he had 26 goals, 38 assists, which is a pretty decent number. My guess is he is headed to college this season, so even with that, he won't be, playing for the Blackhawks until at least later in the season. He won a gold medal with that U.S. team at the Under-18 World Championship this past year, and it is confirmed he is going to college this year. He will be at the University of Minnesota. Given that he is from Minnesota, I'm not surprised by that at all. So this is a player that the Blackhawks probably don't see on their team until probably late March, early April. He had 5 goals, 4 assists in 7 games at the U18 World Championship this year. And it seems year after year, we're getting like 5 or 6 great players coming from this USA development team program. And then they head off to college for a year, and then they're off to the NHL. I think this development program is doing really well for U.S. hockey. I think they're getting some really good prospects out of it. And hopefully it's going to lead to them having bigger success on the national stage sooner rather than later. As I said earlier, the Seattle Kraken are now on the clock. And I did mention earlier, I said I would probably talk about this when it started to run out of content, it felt like. 7 and 8 year contracts are becoming a big thing in the NHL now. And I don't really think that's the way the league should be going. I mean, that's just, it's a lot of time. And half the time you're also giving no move contracts or no move clauses within these contracts. And it seems like too much, I'd say. Like, I think the NBA has a 5-year max contract you can give, and you see much more movement with players. And I think going like 7 or 8 years is just, too much for them. And it's just, I don't like it. I think the NHL should implement a rule that, they should change it a little. I doubt the NHLPA would allow that. Like that's something that would have to be guaranteed in the next CBA, I think. And I don't see them doing that. The pick has been in for the Seattle Kraken. And now we just wait and see as they're now just getting up to head up to the podium. And it's not looking like we're going to be able to make it the whole 32 picks tonight, given that this computer charger is not, functioning completely right now. It's kind of draining the battery a little. So this may be cut off a little bit sooner than I would have liked. But, we've made it 2 hours and 11 minutes into this. We've made it almost 20 picks into the draft. As the Kraken are now stepping onto the stage as we await to see what their pick will be here. Looks like Ron Francis, the general manager, will be the person announcing the pick here. And the pick is in, and it is Eduard. It looks like Sale, but it could be Sale. I don't know. He's played in the Czech Republic this year with Brno. Once again, I don't want to butcher these names, but I do kind of feel bad. He is from the Czech Republic, so he's from Czechia. He's a winger, and this is another pick. I don't know a ton about the guy, given that I don't watch a ton of Czech hockey. They're showing highlights from some type of Czech tournament, which leads me to believe that he most likely played at the U18 World Championships. He looks like he is from Brno, Czech Republic, so he played for his hometown team in the Czech Extraliga, I believe is the name of the league. Uh, 43 games this year. He had 7 goals and 7 assists, which personally to me, looking at that, isn't a great number, given that he is a winger, but I'm sure there's backstory there on why it's not that high. But like I said, I can't claim to know a ton about the guy. I don't watch a ton of Czech hockey. The Czech Extraliga isn't on my must-watch list. He had 1 goal, 5 assists in 7 games at the World Junior Championships this year. Once again, not an outstanding number, but could be better, could be worse. Just watching some of these highlights, they only had 3 highlights, it seems. Looks like they're mentioning his strengths are offensive instincts, finding space in the offensive zone, and puck carrying abilities, but he needs to improve on consistent effort. So leads me to believe that he does make good plays. It's just, it's not consistent, and he needs to become more consistent with that. That's what that leads me to believe. The Minnesota Wild are now on the clock. They have just under 2 minutes and 30 seconds remaining. As we await the pick for the Minnesota Wild here, they're just talking about how the NHL schedule was released yesterday. There is a triple header to open the season. It is Predators, Lightning, Blackhawks, Penguins, and then Kraken, Golden Knights. Golden Knights will be raising their banner that night. Connor Bedard's first game will be in Pittsburgh. And the Tampa Bay Lightning are just hosting a game. So it looks like this may be the last pick that we can make it through on this battery, which sucks because I want to keep this good time going, but it's looking like the computer and the charger are saying no because they just decide to not work in the most inopportune moments, I'd say. So as we await the Minnesota Wild here, as they slowly walk up to the stage here, we are very much waiting this pick. Bill Guerin, the general manager, former Penguin, of course. And who will the pick be here? They step to the podium to make this selection. We are still awaiting the pick for the Minnesota Wild here. They're still, talking up there on the podium, waiting for this official announcement. And they officially do make the announcement. It is Charlie Stramel, a center from Wisconsin, playing the Big Ten, obviously. This is a interesting pick for the Wild. They definitely need help in that center position. I don't know if Stramel was the way to go there. But that is what they decided is best for the future of their franchise, and who should I be questioning them on that? So as we update the ticker here, we'll see if we can make it to the Philadelphia pick without this computer battery dying out. what's the worst that could happen? Philadelphia back on the clock. They got this pick from the Los Angeles Kings, or they got them from the Columbus Blue Jackets via the Los Angeles Kings. This was the Kings' original pick. Obviously has been moved around a few times. Stramel from St. Paul, Minnesota. So going back home, even though he played at Wisconsin, which some would consider a cardinal sin if you are born in Minnesota. We'll just check in on the insiders again, see if we're, if any trades are even being discussed. And it really doesn't look like it. They are saying Edouard Saleh, who was picked just previously, expect him to play in the OHL next year with the Barrie Colts. So that would solve that. He will not be in the U.S. next year. Or he will not be with the Kraken next year, I should say. He will be technically in the U.S. for some games, given the OHL has teams in Flint, Saginaw, and Erie. So we still continue to wait. It looks like we're about to head to a commercial break. The Flyers have 2 minutes and 45 seconds left on the clock for them. Just checking for, anything. We're hoping to get, any type of trades here. And it's just not really looking like it's going to happen. Which is quite sad, but we tried. The pick is in for the Flyers, but we just went to commercial break, so we are still going to be at least 2 minutes away from the pick being made. So we have a commercial currently for Formula One for a race that's not even this weekend. It's for a race that's actually, is that 2 weeks? No, that's the week after this weekend, so next weekend. Quite odd if you ask me, but again, I do not control the things here. As this computer battery keeps dying quicker and quicker. We're going to hopefully make it to this Philadelphia pick, but if not, that might be it for tonight. As we continue to wait out this commercial break, we are waiting the Philadelphia Flyers to be back on the clock here. Or back on the stage, I should say. They have been on the clock. We are back from commercial break now. The Flyers are just headed up to the stage. We will see what they do with this pick here, given that, there's been a lot that's gone on here. So it looks like this trade that got them there, it's got a lot of pieces going on with it. It's a lot to break down here. Well, let's see what the Flyers do with this pick here. So we await them to announce the pick. The pick is in. It is Oliver Bunk, a defenseman from London in the OHL, not London, England, London, Ontario, the London Knights. One of the most successful teams in OHL history. This is once again, an interesting pick. He is the son of Radic Bonk. And yeah, this once again, this is a player that's going to be playing for the Flyers, 3 or 4 years down the line, not right now, but I think it ends up, I don't know if this will end up being a good pick for the Flyers, but you got to believe that it will be, given that it's a first-round talent. But sometimes these first-round picks just don't work out. So given that, this computer battery keeps going down, so that we're just going to call it a night here. We got through 22 picks, which was actually more than I expected to. Covered good territory on a lot of picks. I think the future's bright for the NHL. Few questionable picks out there, but I think most of them turned out really well. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. We will be back on Friday for your Friday edition of Sports Talk Live. Back at 9 o'clock. We will not be doing a 7 o'clock episode like we did today. So hopefully you enjoyed this episode. Like I said, we'll be back on Friday and hope to see you there. Hopefully you liked this live stream, this 2-hour and 26-minute live stream of the NHL Draft. Wish we could have got through it all, but computer battery says otherwise. So hopefully you enjoyed it. If you just stumbled across the video, make sure to like and subscribe. We will be back on Friday with another Sports Talk Live, and have